Welcome to Lead with Clarity. This is a space for leaders who want to grow without losing themselves in the process. Each episode is a short reflection on leadership, influence, and the inner work that shapes how we show up for others. Not hype, not noise, just clear thinking for the journey of leading well. Today's podcast is entitled When Strategy Becomes Work. Here we go. Plans feel productive. They give leaders a sense of movement, a sense of clarity, a sense that progress is underway. You walk out of a planning session with a whiteboard full of ideas, a strategy deck that looks sharp, a roadmap that stretches into the next quarter or even the next year. Feels like something important has happened. But leadership experience teaches a different lesson. The real work begins after the meeting ends. Peter Drucker captured this reality with one of the most honest observations about leadership and execution, when he said, "Plans are only good intentions unless they immediately degenerate into hard work." That line is pretty simple and quite blunt. It captures something that every leader eventually learns. Planning is comfortable. Execution is demanding. Most organizations are very good at the first part. Fewer are disciplined about the second. Think about how much energy typically goes into planning. Strategy retreats, alignment meetings, vision presentations. Teams gather to discuss what the future could look like. And that's all valuable. Leaders need direction. Organizations need clarity. But there's a subtle trap hidden inside the planning process. Planning creates the feeling of progress before progress has actually happened. You can spend weeks crafting a strategy. You can build the perfect slide deck. You can get everyone nodding in agreement in the room. But until the work begins, nothing has changed. No customers have been served differently. No process has improved. No results have moved. The leadership moment arrives right after the plan is finalized. That moment rarely gets the same attention as the planning itself. It happens quietly. The meeting ends, people return to their desks, calendars fill up again, other priorities start competing for attention. And that's where many plans slowly lose their momentum. Not because the ideas were bad, but because the transition from intention to effort never happened quickly enough. Peter Drucker's choice of words is interesting. He says the plan must degenerate into hard work. Degenerate is not a word most leaders use when talking about strategy, but it is an honest one, because once the plan becomes real work, it stops feeling elegant. Here's the reality. Execution is messy. It involves follow-up conversations that feel repetitive. It involves clarifying responsibilities when things are unclear. It involves making adjustments when reality does not match the plan. It involves accountability, and accountability always requires effort. This is where leadership becomes visible. Anyone can participate in planning conversations, but leaders distinguish themselves in how they drive execution afterward. The strongest leaders understand that momentum is fragile. If a plan sits too long without action, enthusiasm fades, attention shifts, priorities change. But when work begins quickly, something different happens. People start to believe that the strategy is real. They see movement. They see ownership. They see progress beginning to take shape. And that builds credibility. Execution creates credibility faster than any presentation ever will. There's also a common misunderstanding around Drucker's quote. Some people interpret it as criticism of planning itself, as if planning does not matter. That is not the point. Good planning is essential. It clarifies direction. It aligns teams. It reduces confusion. But planning is preparation. Execution is leadership. The real question is not whether your organization has a plan. Most organizations have plenty of plans. The real question is how quickly those plans turn into disciplined action. One of the simplest ways leaders can reinforce this is by focusing on 3 questions immediately after strategy is defined. The first question is ownership. Who is responsible for making this happen? Not a committee, not a department. Who is the person? Ownership creates clarity, and clarity accelerates execution. The second question is the first step, not the 10th step, not the full roadmap. Just the first visible action that begins moving the plan forward. Momentum often begins with something small. The third question is timing. When does the work start? Not next quarter, not after another round of discussion, now. Because the longer the gap between planning and action, the greater the risk that the plan simply becomes another document that people once discussed. Organizations rarely struggle because they lack ideas. Most leadership teams are full of smart people with strong strategies. What organizations struggle with is consistency, consistent follow through, consistent effort, consistent accountability. Execution is rarely dramatic. It's usually quiet and disciplined. A leader checking in on progress, a team adjusting a process, a manager reinforcing priorities. These small acts compound over time, and eventually they produce results that look impressive from the outside. But the foundation of those results is simple. Someone turned a plan into hard work. So the next time you find yourself finishing a strategy session, pause for a moment before moving on to the next meeting. Look at the plan in front of you and ask a simple leadership question. Has this plan already started turning into work? Are people moving? Are responsibilities clear? Are the first steps underway? Because the value of a plan is not measured by how inspiring it sounded in the room. It's measured by how quickly it begins to change behavior. In the end, plans inspire people for a moment. Hard work moves organizations forward, and leadership lives in that transition.